Hi, everybody. Again, welcome to another episode of Carnival of Randomness on the road. We are in hallowed ground for me. We're at MuCCC on Atlantic Ave. Otherwise known as Mario. It's Muck, usually.
Muck, or the Muck.
The Muck.
You speak
It's
to.
an old church. So I made sure I wear an appropriate shirt so somebody can see. Which is good.
Yes, everybody
I've
look
been
at it.
here for years. There's incredible theatrical productions come down, and everybody should come to these. They're really, really great, put on by local theater. Great talent. Been around how long? About almost 10 years or so.
Their 10th.
The Muck, the 10th anniversary, yeah.
And so you know who we're talking to. It's me. It's Zach, sort of.
What do you mean, sort of? I'm always
And
here.
welcome back from before Mario and MJ, and then we were joined by our new friend Alexis.
Hi. Good to be back.
Yes. So cool. And now we're here to talk about your next production, which is coming up next week. It sounds very, very interesting.
Yeah. Zach, we open Thursday, actually, so very exciting. We're on Thursday through Saturday of this week
Yes.
coming up.
And can you tell us about it a little bit?
Yeah, lay it out.
Yeah.
So it's called the Heavy Entertainment Show, and it is very much in the style of DVC type shows that we have done frequently in the past, usually for our summer production, where we incorporate the show is written and inspired by and incorporates the music of a particular artist, musical artist, and so we've done shows with music from Vanessa Carlton and Nellie McKay and Bruce Springsteen and My Chemical Romance. We try to hit a pretty wide variety of them, and this time around, we're doing a production with music from pop superstar Robbie Williams, the most famous man that no one in America has ever heard of. So
I have a remote bird thing, though, is I know how to British people.
yeah, that would be it. But Robbie is an international superstar through all of Europe and Asia and all around, and so and has been for quite some time, for the past 20 years or so, actually. And so a little more than that if you count his boy band days. His boy band Take That back in Britain. But so we that's kind of how he felt about it too.
Well, I had a roommate who was huge into Wham when I was in grad school.
Right.
And all I heard was George Michael's solo album. He was the next Beatles or something, so I know all about this stuff.
I think that was a swing and a miss.
So they so the idea actually came to me years ago, and maybe 3 or 4 years ago I was putting something together and did not come to fruition for whatever reason at that time, which was good because ultimately it led to the show that we're doing right now in Muck. So actually, I have with me, first of all, 2 actors. MJ and Alexis are both actors in the show, as well as being very instrumental in the production. They're both in the production crew. MJ was costume designer for the show, and Alexis has done a lot of work with set design for the show and has put this thing together. So,
That's one of my points. Is never try to act pretentious with theater friends or anything either, because at your show, I talked to Alexis about 12 night. I made a quote, and you're like, "Oh, I've been in it, and you did the whole quote for me." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm talking about comics or something obscure, 1970s candy next time. I'll get you on that one." But that's cool. One of the things I was thinking of, number one, that when you did the My Chemical Romance thing, it had to be the easiest role ever for you, MJ, because you played yourself.
I wish that was me.
Yeah, right. But one of the things that came, pretty much. We all know. It's dark. But one of the things I was thinking of driving over, that's how we do these things on the carnival. We don't exactly prepare tons.
like randomly.
We try to, hanging out and talking pretty much. We do, believe it or not, we do prep and do some notes. But I was thinking akin
You
of...
said doo-doo.
Twice.
Oh, see, we're live. Cut that.
No.
Now, one of the things I was thinking about, this is sort of almost a cousin of a rock opera or a concept album done live. A live rock album. Yeah, that's almost like what it is. It's almost like when they take songs, and it does a story, it goes into the story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my thought process when we first started doing these, and we've redone the My Chemical Romance one a couple of times and changed it significantly, but the initial form of that was really the first one that we did, and that was the idea, was how do we rock opera this? Yeah.
And the one when you did the Bruce Springsteen one, that was a little different because you would have people talking, almost telling something related to the song,
right?
Then you would play the song.
Yeah, it was characters, people each portraying a different character with a monologue that thematically fit a song. It was inspired by a Springsteen song, so the Springsteen song would follow the piece. This is a little more following a structure of a traditional musical in that we have characters in show, although I will inform audience members that they will be interacted with at various times in the show.
She picks on me anyways before you get MJ. I'm used to it. I get picked on all the time. It's like, pass me the wine bottle.
Yeah.
I don't get to break the fourth wall in this
Call me a
one.
nervous.
Yeah.
You know?
That happens during the performance.
I'm sitting in the back.
There's a good amount of show within a show here. So in the show within the show elements, when they're performing live to an audience, obviously the audience is the audience, but most of the time we're out of the context of that and interacting with the characters.
Well, I like actually the last show, the Lights Out show. Mm-hmm. I loved the reaction because I didn't realize what I was coming into. I sort of knew it was a comedy, and I didn't realize the concept.
Oh, black comedy?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm old. I forget names.
Oh, we all did that.
We did.
Saw those 2 months ago.
That was fun. That was a fun show.
But that was one of those when I came in and I heard it was a comedy. I knew there's nothing I haven't liked. Haha. So
Yay.
far.
Great.
Keep going, you'll get me. But,
Maybe this weekend.
well, thanks. I doubt it though. But one of the things when I came in, I didn't know, and the audience was looking for the big audience, the crowd was into it, and then everybody sort of was like, "Is there a power outage? What's going on here?"
Yeah. The trick of that show is to keep the audience in darkness for almost 5 minutes in the beginning of the show. And have the characters on stage walking around and acting like everything is perfectly normal. And then it's when the lights come up that the audience can see, but now the actors on the stage are in the dark and have to play through that.
And I respect physical comedy too because I know how hard it is.
So hard. Yeah.
It was
hard.
tough. It was
Mentioning physical comedy, now we'll switch to the other genre, sort of a musical. Now, what are the challenges of that compared to like regular drama or?
Singing.
Yeah.
Well, we know for you.
It's a tricky. I mean, so I can speak particularly to doing an original piece, which is then you don't have a frame of reference. The show has never been done before. That's the most exciting thing about doing the show. It's very rewarding, but also punishing in a way. Because what is it supposed to look like? What is it supposed to sound like? What works? What doesn't work? It's never been done before. So in this show, we have incorporated a pretty good amount of live music, as we typically do, with Doug and Claire, our awesome instrumentalists,
Claire's incredible.
keyboard and guitar player.
Doug is too, I'm sure, but I don't know.
Yeah, Doug Waterman. He's a great guy. They incorporate a lot of that. They did all the music for the Springsteen show and incorporated other elements. So conceptually for this show, most of the live music comes in the second act. There's very specifically different variations of music in here. There's instrument. A lot of the big production numbers are pre-recorded music. We have a number that's lip synced, but most of the live music comes in the second
I wish
spot.
it was me.
No, it's it's when they're doing a video shoot. So the idea is that she's lip syncing to herself during the performance. So, or over her own voice during the performance, I should say. So from that aspect, there's a lot. There's a lot of moving parts. Just a lot of with different ensemble members. And I really try to incorporate a interesting character arc in everyone that's on the stage existing in the show, and so you want to give them this storyline that follows through and supports the story as a whole. So I think that it's just a lot. And from a lighting perspective and areas I'm not particularly skilled in, like lighting a show or building things, that's why I have to defer to other people.
I've done some writing and a little bit of filmmaking and everything. And one thing I found out when you're not adapting a work, like when you did at Swim,
right.
You're going from material, you're doing your own material. Eventually, when you start writing it, does it sort of take a life of its own, where it tells you, okay, I'm going to go this way, even though you didn't expect it was going to go that way?
Yeah, I would. I mean, the songs. I write the story around the songs. It's tough when you really love a song and you're like, doesn't belong here. But I just try to find a way to be influenced by that. So in that regard. Yeah, I mean.
He's going to talk about. Want to tell us a little about your characters?
Let's do that.
You're
play.
You're closer.
That's fair. Just go on the road. I play Kaylee Harris, who is a veteran, kind of aging out of being able to be a dancer, and just trying to get her foot in the door to stay on this tour and keep going as long as she can, but it doesn't exactly keep working out for her. I won't give anything away, but it doesn't work.
Spoilers!
No spoilers, it doesn't work.
Super happy ending.
Super happy ending. The boat sinks.
Always, yeah. I play Delilah Clark, who was a pop sensation about 10 years earlier than the beginning of the play. So she ends up being an influence for the people who are currently the pop sensations like Johnny and Madison and Tony. But she got out of the business for various reasons, including drug addiction, needing and wanting independence in her music, and being asked to do things that she wasn't morally comfortable doing. So now she has her own little studio, and she's kind of an indie producer. And she's still struggling with a lot of things, but she's in a better, quote unquote, better place than she was 10 years ago.
I was going to say, too, how did you first, you might have said it a little bit, I'm in a fog, as I always am in the hot weather. How did you first come up with the idea of incorporating, doing the whole thing with music and everything when you first did your first one of these? It just come to you in a dream or something? Or just...
So I've come to appreciate some musicals a lot, but I was not a big fan of musicals for a long time. If you talk to any kids that were in the early versions of DVC back in the early 2000s, they would be like, oh, Seth hates musicals. We're never doing any musical. So my goal, I think, was to do kind of an anti-musical, but I've really sort of embraced, I think, the aspects of musicals that I really enjoy, and I think are still relevant and purposeful. But they have to be ones that I feel like thematically are saying things that we want to say and that are relevant to us as a society. And I mean, this idea behind the show was to explore themes of what does it mean to be a celebrity, how does society create and destroy celebrity, what does it do to a person. It's a lot about striking a balance between having artistic freedom and wanting social acceptance. And I mean, those are things that any artist
That's
would
one of
struggle
the things
with in
that
any
comment
medium.
I can make sometimes when I'll be in the line at a store. I just really don't care about celebrity culture. I focus on everything I know.
Right.
I think it's kind of crazy, and especially when we get people who, obviously, a lot of people locally have a lot more talent than some people.
Well,
that are famous.
you don't need to stand there and see how. Oh God, I can't even remember who it was. He had Stevie Wonder has 7
And I don't
months to
care about
live.
people's personal
This
lives
time.
or anything.
Again.
And I don't care, but I'll be in the store, and the point is I'll be waiting. They're getting frustrated because I hate waiting in lines.
Yeah.
And I'll look, and there'll be people there thumbing through, I call them the idiot magazines, looking at who's dying this week, who's dating whom.
Yeah.
And I think what they like the idea is they do, it's a sad comment about it, where it's almost where you want to build people up, but then you want to bring them down.
Yeah.
And you want to feel better about yourself and go, well, oh, this person was, it's like somebody was really popular in high school, and you don't realize high school is just temporary. You go on to your life, and it doesn't really matter. And people just, well, my life isn't that good. That person's not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tony, the two characters that we follow pretty much from the beginning through this process, as we were saying, Kaylee has been struggling through trying to make a living as a working class type of artist, right? As a dancer that isn't famous in and of herself, but has had opportunities. And Delilah, who's been through it and on the other side. And so through this story, we're following Johnny and Tony, who are two best friends who get grabbed up by this music producer. And it's the idea of, we talk about that celebrity concept, the person versus the thing that they become. And can you distinguish between the two? And, from an audience standpoint, but also from a personal standpoint, right? How much of this do we want? And a lot of people dream, if I can get famous and successful, then I will be happy. And obviously we've seen plenty of stories where that doesn't appear to be entirely accurate. And so this kind of depicts the struggle there between that.
It's like hearing stories of people who won the huge lotteries.
Oh, yeah,
and your
that
stories
always
later
end up
on,
bankrupt
and they're
in 2 years.
miserable.
Right.
And
Yep.
it's like sometimes you just have to look into yourself and find that's my weird view. I don't know if it works or not. But.
Well, when you're doing a show like this, I'm curious, what made you pick Robbie Williams in particular?
So I've been a fan for a long time. I think one of the things that my first interaction with Robbie Williams was not a positive one. I thought he was so annoying and ridiculous.
I
I was hoping you were going to tell
Well,
a
yeah,
story.
they
That's
get
so
some of that
irrelevant.
Brit pop look, because I lived with an English woman for a while, and I used to be subjected to she just got satellite to watch EastEnders, Top of the Pops,
Oh, yeah.
all these things, and I saw all these, hearing Sophie Alex Bextor over and over, and all these other bands, so they had that look to them.
Yeah. So it's just my first time actually in overseas. My first time in England. We're in London, and Robbie Williams was just as a solo artist starting to come into popularity. He apparently had been very successful overseas in Britain and other countries with his boy band Take That for about 5 years, and then he got booted out or quit. I don't know. And then he was just getting popular as a solo artist. And you made a George Michael. I'll make a George Michael connection to what you said. So George Michael's song "Freedom," right? That was his breakaway from all things celebrity-ish as much as he could to try to get back to the music, right? So I'm looking at Robbie, and Robbie's redoing the song, only he's redoing it with this big, super like upbeat, mugging camera. And I was just looking at him going, this guy has no idea what the song is about or what he's trying to do. As it turns out, he was really going through his own breakaway from something very similar to what George Michael, I guess, was feeling. But at the time, I was just like, this guy is so annoying. Because you have to get past Robbie Williams thinks he's a genius to Robbie Williams thinks he's a genius because he can't stand himself. And this whole idea of like, and he references this in many songs over and over again, right? This whole concept of more or less, I'm amazing, unless you think I'm not. And then if you think I'm not, then I guess I'm nobody.
Is it an act or not, though? Because
like,
I've known
can't
friends.
tell. That's the point.
I've had friends, actually, friends of mine who are in a band. Their whole act is they're the most awesome band there is. Everybody sucks, but it's just an act.
Right.
That's all it is. It's just for fun. And one of them got punched in the face by the singer from the Misfits because they thought they were making fun of him. Because that's what it is. It's like you suck. They make fun of everybody, but if you know them, that's what the whole thing is. You're all acting real pretentious. It's all fake, though.
I think that's probably why a lot of people, or a lot of celebrities, are really insecure. So they become a celebrity to create something that they're not.
Yeah,
Right.
and this,
Right.
And as much as you said, sad comparison. Look at like Robin Williams. Everybody thought he was so happy-go-lucky, but that's the thing with, especially with a lot of comedic actors, is they're very depressed and very insecure.
And I found also like people I've known who are sort of celebrities and people in theater and in music, and you found that they might have these over-the-top personalities.
Yep.
If you know them in purpose, they're very, very shy.
Mm-hmm.
Like some drag queens I know, literally they're all flaunting all attention. They're all great in front of people. You see them without that, they're very
Right.
They
But
can
again-
always play another person.
But again, and I think that's like, well, when I'm on stage, I'm not me. I'm
Yeah.
Right.
whoever their
So-
stage name is.
Yeah, so I became a big fan. That was one of the things that drew me to him because he was doing 4-minute pop songs, but he was doing them in a way that lyrically was very interesting to me and that people were not doing. And it was very not, like I said, I don't know, maybe Robbie breaks in America if he's more of a Justin Timberlake. But Justin Timberlake is not going to do a duet with Rufus Wainwright called Swings Both Ways, where they're joking about their, personal, their potential intimacies, right?
I think Justin Timberlake might. I mean, he at least has a sense of humor.
I think so, because there was that thing about that. Okay, but
yeah, there was that. Yeah. That thing.
But Robbie's not afraid to wear ridiculous things. He's not afraid to look goofy, and that's the thing. Like, I'm amazing, so I can look goofy. His dance moves are goofy. He's pretty ridiculous at times. He enjoys embracing his ridiculousness. So I don't know. Like, I do think America wants its celebrities to kind of have this big glowing light, like this thing of like you're untouchable. You're this person that's bigger than me. And I don't know, maybe that idea in Britain was kind of like, oh, there's that guy. There's Robbie spilling beer on himself.
I guess an idea there was Frank Bruno was a boxer, and I guess he was somebody who tried. He was good, but he never really won. They said in Britain they don't like I guess Kenneth Branagh wasn't very popular in his own country, especially taking on Shakespeare, because they don't want to see that. They almost want people like be humble.
Yeah. We went to. I was going to do this show. It's evolved so much since the first time, but I finally saw Robbie in Vegas. I thought I was like never going to see him in my entire life, and it was long to fly to Las Vegas to see the show. We did that, but we did it. It was probably the closest he'll ever be in a full concert. It was really interesting to watch him in a very small venue, right?
So what made you go see him the second time then?
Oh, what made me go see him? Well, I never saw him the first time. I just saw his.
Oh,
I never saw him live.
Okay.
I think I would have gotten it if I had seen him live the first time. I didn't know. I spent a little while going, oh, Robbie Williams, I don't know who that is, but we don't have him in America. That was right about the Spice Girls breakout, too, by the way.
Oh, dear God.
So, Robbie, as it turned out, was a little more endearing. Endearing, I don't know. But
Both.
a lot more lasting. So, yeah, no, Robbie's still very popular. He put an album out 3 years ago that went right to #1. He still has hit songs. Obviously, he's not on he's not the celebrity of the moment anymore. It's been years, but I don't know. I just heard some of the songs lyrically, and I went, "There's a little sarcasm in here. There's a little bit of kind of a."
I like about this too, in terms of you could go. Obviously, you could have one with the Beatles. You could have one with Led Zeppelin. These really big groups, but you look for some that I know them all, but I kind of know these.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will come in and they won't know who it is, and that's what I like. Is you don't just pick the obvious.
Right.
You could do a Tom Waits one.
I feel like
Springsteen.
Now
obviously,
the
but
Waits
I might be able to
licenses
sing
stuff.
Tom Waits.
Yeah. Well,
He uses the lights
so
and
Robbie,
stuff.
it's really, it depends on the show. Like for the Vanessa Carlton show, she wrote an email back to one of my students who was a senior in high school at the time and was like, you incorporate this stuff, do what you want with it. Sometimes you have a level of interaction, sometimes you don't necessarily. But at this show, like it was the performance space in one of the hotel casinos there was 1,500 seats. And Robbie's been playing around the world. He had the fastest selling tour of 2008. And he's playing this show. It's very intimate to him and for him. And it was just I was just caught up in the entireness. The ridiculousness of it was so ridiculous, it was actually all the way back to being very personal and intimate.
It's amazing to see bands do that. I saw Marillion when they played at the Penny Arcade, and they literally would headline festivals in Europe, but they had no audience here.
Yeah.
And there's a band called Saxon that played, another one huge in Europe. They come here, played Penny Arcade, and played a small venue.
Yeah. Yeah, it was and Robbie said in the show more than once, "Hey America, tell your friends about me." And that's half jokingly because in reality he would still love. He wants a residency in Vegas for a long time. He wants to break. That's his thing. Is like his dream is like the Sinatra, Dean Martin kind of vibe. And made a couple of swing albums where he covered a lot of those songs.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So I just and then at that point I was like, no, we're absolutely doing this. And it's that aspect, I guess, of his approach to music and his feelings about it that I was like, okay, this could definitely feed into the kind of themes that we.
This is more for Alexis than because you've done these before. Now, have you ever done something like this? And if you haven't, what are some of the challenges it pose, and how's it compared to what else you've done? I know you've done Shakespeare. You've done a lot of different roles. I've seen them.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done really anything quite like this. I actually tend to steer away from musicals, probably for the same reasons that Mario has mentioned. But I don't know, it's infused with a lot of heart at the same time that with a lot of the larger, more popular musicals that I have been involved in, they're kind of just like things like Grease, like very flashy, very kind of shallow pieces that are all about nothing.
One of my friends said this to me because we had to watch Once More with Feeling with Buffy because we're both huge Buffy
Great
fans.
episode.
And the thing she told me was we were talking about musicals, and I'm not a huge fan. I've got over the years when I've gotten older, I've sort of liked them a little bit more. But they're sort of unnatural because most of the time we're walking down the street, we don't break into songs.
Sure.
Well, it depends on who you are.
This is
Have you never been to Vegas with me?
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, true, but you're watching a drama and you're looking at the house. Behind that house is a bunch of boards. It's not really a house.
Yeah.
So, I do think there's that element to musical that maybe early on.
Yes, I appreciate them more than I used to now. I do watch more of them.
I mean, in Brecht, they break into song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Bollywood.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, I mean, if you have a vibe,
Yeah.
like shows like Cabaret in Chicago that have this kind of sense of like we're in this piece and then we're breaking out of this piece. The elements of that I definitely are very much sort of.
And I urge everybody too. These are always done very well, but you have to see these live because I cannot watch mostly on TV. I can't watch opera on TV.
Well, that's one thing.
You have to see everything live because
yeah.
it really adds to it.
Like that's the one thing I've noticed. Like I've seen a lot of musicals on film. The old style ones.
Yep.
Right.
Christ, what was the one with Maurice
Jesus Christ
Chevalier?
Superstar that you mentioned?
No, the one with Maurice Chevalier.
Gigi. What's her name?
Yeah.
Thank Heaven.
Thank Heaven for Little Girls, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I saw that on film and it didn't, reach out as it would be if you saw, you saw it live.
Exactly.
And I guess for high school, we had the thing, our homeroom was the same room all 4 years. Mine was the chorus room, and the chorus director was my teacher. And I just remember for 2 months or so, around musical time, we wouldn't see him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we would just hear stuff going on the stage. And it's like, man, what the hell is going on over there?
We did
He would let
Birdie,
us come over. He would
actually.
not let us come over and look. It's like, well.
And people had fun with it. We did Bye Bye Birdie in high school. I helped with the sets because I can't sing or anything. But it was amazing. Like a lot of my teammates actually did play football. A lot of these people that they really got into it. They really started enjoying it.
Yeah.
And it was lots of fun.
It's a
Never-
challenge.
It is, maybe because of the Elvis thing there and everything later on, but it is a challenge. It's like, really is. So one thing I was going to ask, I mean, I've been a fan of these and I think they're very well done. Well, I've always thought, somebody asked me this question when I was working on a movie with my friend Mike. He said, okay, tell me why I should go see this. And you should tell him because he doesn't usually go out to these.
I don't go out.
Why should he go and see?
No
Why
offense,
should
but I don't
somebody
go
come
out
and see this?
It's nothing personal.
Thanks for coming here.
Yes.
Yeah. Small groups is fine. Crowds.
Understandable.
That's when the crowds are a little.
I have anxiety, but as long as I'm among friends and I'm familiar, I'm okay. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
like crowds.
Yeah.
But how would you tell somebody who's never experienced this, never done this?
Basically,
I tried the part of the podcast is I'm trying to promote all the local things I think are really worthwhile and people have to come to see them. But how would you tell somebody, come on down? Why should you come see
sell
this?
me.
Plus, there's parking. Number one, there's parking.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
we've got parking.
And there's air conditioning.
Yes, which is important nowadays.
because
And
if
it's
you don't
really
know-
cheap.
Oh my god.
Yes.
So the mission statement of all DVC productions is to do shows that are socially relevant to our community specifically. We have incorporated, I think, a group of people that is as diverse or much more diverse than any theater group that you're going to find in the Rochester
I've
area.
seen your kids over the years. They're so talented too. That's one plug I have to make.
We have a substantial amount of diversity in so many, how way you want to categorize that. So right there, and the idea is to make it affordable theater that is relevant to people. And so from a general DVC mission standpoint, I think hopefully that's incentive for people to come.
I could speak for that too, whereas one of my friends was desperate to see Hamilton, so I just kept entering the lottery for I never won. But for kicks, I just looked at how much the tickets cost.
Yeah.
How many could you put on here for
All
one
of-
ticket?
All of them.
Every
Yeah.
show we've ever
You
done.
could have a season ticket for 1,000 years here.
Because I remember actually Hamilton. I was sitting in my living room. My sister and all my family still lives in Pittsburgh. She texts me out of the blue, which is weird for her sometimes. It's like, hey, it's intermission. Explain Hamilton to me.
She was at
She was
Hamilton.
at Hamilton
It does move fast.
in Pittsburgh.
Wait a minute, though.
And because she knew not a whole lot about Hamilton the person.
Okay.
So she texts me because I'm a history major, and at intermission says briefly explain, or like recommend a good book about Hamilton. I said, well, the one the musical's based off of is probably the best one you're gonna find.
Yeah.
And she's like, was Hamilton a dick? It's like, yeah, he really was a dick. No offense to any of his ancestors that are still alive, but the guy was a dick.
Did you ask? Was the question? The question was, is a politician a dick? That was, and you needed to answer that.
I mean, back then, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but just
word was he had a
Hamilton-
shot at the presidency down the line.
Who Burr did?
Burr was actually underrated in terms of what he did in history, and he became sort of the bad guy for that. Read Gorgadal's book.
Well, that's what he says in the musical.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just really weird. I didn't really have any desire to see the musical. I own the book. I want to read the book because I know, a little more than your average person about Alexander Hamilton. But the guy was kind of a prick.
And it would be more the government we have now, just for a little bit of history on that, on Hamilton would be more a Hamiltonian government because he was more for the bigger, stronger government, unlike the agrarians like Jefferson and everything.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's brought up.
And I guess like for the duel, he knew he was in trouble.
Oh,
Like
he
he was
knew he
hoping
was
that
screwed, and
they
he
just
took
shot
one.
up in the air
Where did
or
he get
something.
shot? In the leg or the arm? I can't remember.
Somewhere where
Ribs.
they- yeah.
Was it the ribs?
Yeah.
He was really good in that second rap battle, though. He hit his.
Oh, he
yeah,
was.
right. Yeah. So.
Not bad for a guy with a ball.
So,
in his face.
anyways, this is
Yeah, DVC is. Ultimately, look, we're not all related, although MJ and I are related. But I mean, this is not a family. The DVC is a family, and it has the ideas that we're just. The concept is that obviously that we want to have a level of to do theater that perhaps people do not have a connection to on a regular basis, and that's not always theater that you instantly think that you want to see, but then you realize afterwards that
I
it was
could
really
say
good what you
honestly,
saw.
and I would say it because we are sort of honest on this podcast, not the D&D podcast. That one, right? I might
You lied a
be
bunch
an elf, I
on
might
that.
not be an elf, but maybe it could be an elf. But one of the things I've enjoyed everything. I love the diversity of it. I love it's like I've always going, what are you going to have for me next? And I enjoyed seeing like your students and everybody seeing friendly faces. And seeing your students, seeing them grow and all the different stuff they do.
Yeah, we're a collection of high school students from Wilson High School, and in this show, it's a lot of college-age students and local artists that it's turned into this theater community that we've sort of tried to embrace people to bring in who want to come in and do the kinds of things that we're interested in doing. For this particular show, as far as a selling point, we definitely have more choreography, lights, action than we've ever had in any show, without, I think, sacrificing any of the ideas and concepts that we like to explore in shows and things that we want to talk about as far as what we consider to be relevant for us as individuals and for our community. I think all of that stuff hopefully is still there, but in addition to that, it's happening in a way that is definitely bigger from a performance standpoint than things that we've done before.
Cool. But I think that, because you were saying the local talent in Rochester, before I started doing this, I had no idea what the hell was in this city.
Yeah.
I've been at it for years.
Because when I would go back to Pittsburgh, and say, "Oh, I live in Rochester. Where's that?" That's basically what it was. And I didn't know that there was such a big artist community, theater community, music community in this town that there was. And now, like the past year, it's been like, holy shit, there's a lot of stuff.
And I have friends who moved, and they'll say, when I was here, I'm in a big city now, but when I was here, I can see a show every night. When I'm down there, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And actually, Bill Kirchen said this about my friend Greg Townsend in the High Risers. He said, you should appreciate this band. You don't have a lot of things around here.
Who are we talking to that said that same thing, that we're a city where acts can find a place to play every night?
And if you gave me, like, in terms of music or play, if somebody spoke to me and asked you what you liked, they'd say, well, you probably like to check this out or this out. Whereas if I lived somewhere else, it would be, watch TV, what's on TV tonight.
It's funny. I've lived here my whole life. I even went to school here. And up until last year when I first got involved with DVC, I still had no idea. Because you don't expect it. And until you kind of step out and somebody goes, oh wait, look at this, you're kind of in the dark.
All we had when I lived in Washington is we used to go to the free, like the cheap movies at DuPont Circle, and that was sort of the culture. I'd hit bookstores. We never had things like this. There might be somebody playing in Maryland. We had to drive.
Yeah, but for the layperson like I am, you don't think of like the second or third tier cities having such a big theater thing. You think of obviously New York.
Right.
LA, the big cities.
You think you'd have to go to Toronto?
Right.
Yeah, Toronto
Right.
is a huge one.
Yeah, there's a
I've
lot
seen
of
couple shows in
happening,
Toronto,
right.
actually.
Sure.
But very cool, though, and thanks. And well,
Oh wait, actually, before we close it out, there's something I want to ask, because I didn't get a chance to ask the last time we were here talking about at Swim. For all three of you, we'll go one by one. Dream musical. What artist?
Connor.
Yeah.
Come on.
Now, seriously, and now this is like the total hypothetical, forget, the difficulty for licensing.
Yeah.
Who would you want to do it? And
I know my answer if you want to ask me.
well, yeah, I'll throw you in there too.
Mine would definitely be Bright Eyes. Connor
Gee, I
Oberst.
can guess that one out, I guess.
Bright Eyes has been my favorite band forever. I think lyrically, Connor Oberst is brilliant, probably one of the best artists of this generation. And I think there's such a diverse range of songs in his collection now, in his catalog, that you could create a really amazing piece, even though thematically he does have a lot of, he carries his themes throughout his musical career.
How would you compare him to Jason Isbell?
I think I love them both. I think they're both fantastic. I think Connor is a little more folky and tends to be a little bit darker, honestly. They're both political, which I love, but I think Connor's a little darker.
Because I had told the story before, one of my friends met him. He said, well, I met you years ago, and he goes, was that when I was drinking? Was I an asshole to you?
Yeah.
So, Alexis, you have one?
And there's a big difference between the two of them. Yeah. Isbell is now clean, Oberst, not so much.
Okay, so you guys have already done a Tori Amos musical, so that takes her out of contention, I think. But St. Vincent, just because things are so out there and scattered that you could piece together, I think from across her albums, there's just a wide range of styles that you could piece together a really good story with a lot of her work. And especially with the theme that comes back of Marry Me John and Prince Johnny and those songs that kind of carry through, or Happy Birthday Johnny even on her newest album. I think you could really build a story around that, and I just think she's phenomenal.
What do you think of her, Tori's recent stuff, just in terms of how do you think she's been going?
I haven't heard a lot of Tori's most recent stuff. I think, what was the last album I heard of hers was Night of Hunters?
I love that one.
I have it somewhere. But, I have the worst musical ADD, and I'm all over the map. So as soon as I find someone new, I kind of just like I obsess over St. Vincent now. So
I like St. Vincent as well. Mario,
I don't know how I'm going to answer this. Well, I will answer this question by saying we've kind of similar to what Alexis said, only with different artists. We've already done a Counting Crows musical, and that one was very meaningful to me, very relevant to me from a lyrical standpoint for the most part. And that was a great experience that perhaps someday will be revisited. If a show has a reason to be reborn enough, I think, personally, artistically, then it will be. But that was a very, very meaningful one for me. And then when I think about a couple of things, ideas that are kind of germinating in my head, I almost want to refrain from mentioning them because I think that everything's always perhaps in pre-production in my brain.
Don't want to put the kiss
and I don't. Yeah, I'm already in pre-production for shows that I'm not gonna do probably, but I would love to. We have talked about doing a different variation of that Tori Amos musical.
I'm hoping so
It was a one act, and it got to a certain point in the story, and I'd always thought there could be another part to this, and that may be something that happens. I have more than one person pushing me in that direction.
There would be one, of course, you know who it is, obviously, but they never give us the rights.
Yeah, I know they would never
got
do
the
it.
Code example. They're this famous band from the 80s that I've known, but they've become, you almost don't see them because popularity became so big early. They literally keep stuff up. They pull, like their manager's like a pit bull.
Did they threaten us?
Yeah.
They
came on the show one time because I knew one of them. So, but they're very reclusive and everything, and we finally got them to come on the show, do one of our podcasts. They probably got pulled off the air, but they still won't let it. We want to play a song. You know, we play songs from bands when we have
that's the thing. They won't let us play a song. We saw the CD. They had it.
Yeah.
But they said
so.
No.
But one day you never know, and that would be huge. But you never know.
Wow.
For me, this may sound cheesy, but I think a polka thing. And here's why.
That'd be fun.
Here's why. Can you be in a bad mood and listen to a polka song?
It's like reggae or ska.
No, seriously, can you? And you ever notice how polite they are? They don't demand that you get out there and do something like, "Hey, come on out if you want to." You know, like a Lawrence Welk thing. Who was ever in a bad mood after watching Lawrence?
It's like Liberace.
Will it be compelling for 2 hours?
Of course, it will be. Especially if you do a polka version of like a death.
There we go. We're co-producers.
Oh, okay. Then you're
that's
going.
valid.
You know, it's
like if your polka covers.
Here
I
you
can
go.
feel that.
Patent pending, internet.
Yeah, if you flip it.
I'll pitch this idea.
There.
An up-and-coming polka band that wants to get themselves noticed, so they try to do covers of completely opposite songs to what they would play. So they do
I
like
like
a
that.
Slayer.
It sounds on a Spinal Tap or
You know, like a Marilyn Manson type thing, like something dark and dreary, and then just upbeat the hell out of it.
It's like there's a CD called "When Pigs Fly" that all.
No, that was great. That's a great album.
It's got "Shock the Monkey" by Don Ho, the Oak Ridge Boys doing "Carry On My Wayward Son."
Jackie Chan was in it.
Yeah,
he did a duet with somebody. And
it's all these people, artists, and
but it's a
everything.
fantastic album.
But this has been very cool, and this is going to be very good. I urge everybody to go to. I'll be there. If that means anything.
He was plugging what? Just I'm going to put links down there in the bottom.
Fantastic.
Great. So
Get the schedule.
Where can they get tickets? Where can they do all the goodie things?
So they can go to you can go directly to get tickets from the site for the theater itself, which is www.muccc.org, 3 C's, and that's for the MuCC, and those tickets are directly on sale there. And if you want more information about this show or DVC in general and other upcoming shows, you can go to our website, and that's www.dvctheater. That's DVCTHEATRE.
Yeah, the Pompous Theater.
Yeah, .com.
The real way. And you can. There's a ticket link on our website too, so they can get tickets.
I did see that on there. What about?
There's also a DVC Facebook page.
Yeah. What about up and coming people that may want to get into this? Can they contact you through DVC?
There's an email on there. I think my phone number is on there. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is. We have an auditions page.
We're doing a production in the beginning of December, right in here, and
And stay tuned for Polka, the musical.
Do you have any Shakespearean things come so I could try to quote with somebody who's into Shakespeare, so I could try to pretend I know Shakespeare, quote to an actress, and then get killed on the return quote?
Very good, Rob.
So the December show
Plays the thing.
The December show, 5th through the 7th, here at MuCCC, is actually very much based on, as in contains the Shakespearean language of Romeo and Juliet, one of my least favorite Shakespeare plays, so it will be really interesting. It's called Ruslana and Yelena, a modern-day Russian revolution. And so the intent is to explore areas of modern society, particularly in Russia, and policies related to what they would consider inappropriate relationships, as if there could be such a thing when people fall in love with each other. So it'll be
some places around the world. It's scary how the laws.
They will be speaking in iambic pentameter, but it will be it is modernized in lots of ways that I think will be fast-paced and engaging and interesting for people that don't necessarily like traditional Shakespeare. In fact, people that like traditional Shakespeare might want to check their blood pressure before they come to the show. But
so there's one I have to talk about in terms of like suffering for your art was the one outside in Star Alley you did.
Oh, yeah.
Where literally this night it was torrential rain out there. You still performed. You got chased by a bear, I think.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
But it was pouring. That one night I saw it was like literally pouring.
That's good.
And it was October, I believe, or something. It was cold.
It was like it was right on Halloween because I know I went to a scary movie afterwards.
We had a good time though.
Halloween.
That was
right around. And then there was Kill Shakespeare, which is sort of the comic book where they're all villains or heroes.
We did that.
Yeah, I won the shirt because I knew the answer.
We did that at the
Right,
little theater.
I remember
Because of course
that.
I knew you could answer that one about like name 4 movies with that's based on comics, not with superheroes. How hard was it? Of course, you theater people flubbed it up, and I answered it right.
I was in it. I couldn't answer.
But I won.
Thanks for making me have to think about the December show already. This one is still 3 days
Hey,
ago.
anything we can do.
We love promoting it. Just know I'm glad that people know that we are Putin on a play about Tsar-Cross lovers.
Never
that
let
takes place in
it be
Russia.
said we didn't do the least.
When you
You
think
say
I'm
star-crossed lovers.
Isn't that great?
Oh, God.
It's just all you do is switch the T and the S.
I know.
Tsar-Cross.
Sounds
And you didn't catch the Putin on the show?
Yeah, that's my thing. We're Putin on a show of Tsar-Cross lovers.
Rooting to Putin is here.
I'm gonna cry. This is a dream come true.
Yes, it is.
Puns for days!
Check it out this week.
punishment.
It's going to be really fun, and if you know what you're going to do. Probably a lot of people go see the show. They're going to go get Robbie Williams CDs.
I would love to do that. He told America to tell our friends about him, and it's more than that's the least I can do for allowing us to have the opportunity to take this music and transform it into what we want to do with it. So that would be
So
super
Robbie,
cool.
if you're feeling generous, kick a little.
Please don't sue us.
Yeah.
If you're feeling generous.
Kick a little of the royalties to the DVC.
Whatever
Come
attention
see
you
the
get is
show,
good
Robbie.
attention. There's no bad press.
Leave a ticket at will call for you.
Yeah, like the Dylan birthday party.
Yeah.
But thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah,
and
we'll see you again
and
for
I'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.